I'd like to express my appreciation for people who are waiting for the planning commission. Unfortunately, the Public Works and Utility Committee are in a little long. We'll start out with, making introductions. This is the meeting of the Planning Commission and the Joint Village and Town Extraterritorial Zoning Committee, scheduled for 6 o'clock. We apologize again, so again, I apologize for being late, even though we were here. So the first thing we'll do is we'll call to order the Planning Commission. Valerie, will you take roll call, please?
Yes. All right. Conan? Can you hear me?
Talk a little louder, Valerie.
Yeah.
Sorry, my volume was turned down. Cronin?
Okay.
Here.
Aaron?
Here.
Jordan?
Here.
Manel?
Here.
Mumper?
Here.
White?
Here.
And Gail Marshall's a new member, but she is not here.
Thank you, Valerie.
Call the Extraterritorial Zoning Committee to order, and Valerie, take roll call there.
Olson?
Here.
Manel?
Here.
Christensen?
Here.
Cronin?
Here.
Gerndt?
Here.
Hull?
Here.
Okay, item 5. Before we commence, I would like to introduce new members to the Plan Commission. Roy Mumford, he's been on before in the past. And Gail Marshall, who is not here, we'll have to introduce her next time she shows up. Any new ones on your committee, Will?
I don't think so. Everybody new? Not the town side anyway.
Okay, for those of you who haven't attended the meeting before, we have our village administrator, Keith Donner, we have Director of Planning and Development, Jennifer Higgins, and we have Emily, our assistant planner. We have our village president, Mark Maloney over here, we have our Director of Public Works, Michael Adolsky there. Let's see. I think that's everybody. Everybody else has name tags, so we won't torture them by making them introduce themselves.
I just want to make a point on all the agendas. As of tonight, we had a meeting at 4:15 and we assigned all new committees and commission assignments. And so Lauren was promoted or is now the chairperson of this commission, and Steve Minell is the vice chair. I'm no longer on planning, but in the future I'll be as an alternate, and we're gonna also have another one. So so if you look at the agendas, that's why there's a little difference here. So Lauren's got the gap.
Okay. Item 5, approved minutes from February 8th, 2021, joint PC and ETZ meeting.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Cronin, second by Manel. On the question. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? So carried. Item 6, approved minutes of the April 12th, 2021 PC regular meeting.
Move to approve.
Moved by Jordan,
Second.
second by Garrett. On the question. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? So carried, thank you. Item 7, communications, opportunity for citizens to be heard. Please limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes. Is there anyone either on social media or in the audience that wishes to speak or on items that are later in the agenda?
I'd like to speak later in the agenda, please.
Do you know which item, sir?
The food truck one. 18, paragraph A, dot double I.
Oh, got it. Okay, it's just on project updates, there's. Okay. Okay, is there anyone on social media or on phone? Do we get a report from someone who has, Michael? Are you watching that?
Yeah, there's a couple people on Zoom, but nobody If anybody on Zoom wants to speak during the meeting, please let us know right now.
Thank you, Michael. Do we have any written communications that were not included in the packet? I know we had an email that was included in the packet. None other than that. Okay. Hey, item 9, we're gonna open a public hearing an ordinance to amend various provisions within chapter 94 zoning ordinance and chapter 74 subdivision regulations to add a PD, planned development district, to the zoning code and make other miscellaneous zoning ordinances changes. I will open the public hearing. Presentation by staff.
So this was introduced last month to the Plan Commission. Essentially, we are putting a planned development district back in the code. We used to have an overlay plan development prior to 2015. So this essentially does some changes underneath the standard zoning districts because we currently have an N neighborhood district. So adding this planned development district, there's going to be 2 special districts. So we had to make some changes there. I kind of outlined in your packet kind of where we're making some changes, just kind of giving you the highlights on them. But essentially, the planned development allows applicants to go through a special process to allow them to do some things that they normally wouldn't be able to do. For example, back when the Weston Marketplace went in, that was done as a planned development. The Renaissance was a planned development. So it allows for the Plan Commission to look at the project specific instead of going through and having to make a change to like the whole zoning code that could affect anything in that district. But they have to go through a special process. So there is a hearing that takes place. They also have to do a development plan. So this just kind of outlines it. So I don't know if you have any questions. But it essentially makes changes in just about every article in chapter 94. And then there's also a few changes that need to be made in the subdivision ordinance, just basically for reference to this new district.
Is there any question for staff?
Yeah, I have a question. Does each one of the planned unit development projects, does each one of those come then before the committee?
Yep, so they'll actually have their own implementation plan for each one. If somebody wants to do this district, they don't have to, but so back when we did this for Weston Marketplace, we didn't have a way to put all those buildings on and have them closer to the road like they are. So they went through and actually put a plan together for that whole development. So it's kind of like its own little, you're kind of master planning a site.
And what was the rationale that it was done away with? What was the thought process on why it was changed? I mean, obviously there's different committee members and different trustees at that time.
Some of it was more the previous administrator didn't care for them. In my opinion, it helps us to do more for a business owner. We actually have a reconstruction project that is gonna take place on Business 51, where they're combining a couple lots together. Just because of the lots, they'd have to go through some kind of a variant process and most likely not get that. But they can actually go through this process and do a development plan, and it's kind of a give and take on what that project looks like.
But it would still come before planning committee.
It requires a public hearing. They have to do more. It's not just coming in with a plan.
Just wanted to be clear on that.
But yeah, it allows them to do some different things without us having to go through and change the entire code that could affect. So say they're in B3, if I make a change to the code for a development, it would change for everybody in the B3. So this is a way for a unique project to happen.
And
Mr. Guerin?
Jen, with that, I'm assuming if somebody were to bring one of those in, you would you guys would explain some of the criteria that,
Yeah, so this does define that whole criteria. They actually have to come up with a general development plan.
I'm assuming like
Required.
setbacks, they might look for a little tighter setbacks.
They could,
Just
yep.
development.
They could go higher, they could ask for higher, like higher buildings. And you can look at the area to determine if that's a good fit, but it allows
But most
you-
of those, you guys will outline some of the things that they're asking over and above.
Well,
So
they have to go, I mean, it's a more intense process for, I mean, because you're allowing them to do something unique, so they have to do more. So they would have to put this development plan in place for you, telling you exactly what they wanna do, and how it's gonna be done. So,
Wassa's got something similar.
yeah, most communities have this in their code.
Mr. Crone, you had a question?
Yeah, is there any changes to the municipal fee schedule, in relation to this? Or any new fees or anything that are gonna be imposed because of this?
No, it would go through the whole, it'd be a similar process for probably the same as the neighborhood development. I mean, you're gonna want some type of a fee because it's gonna be more in-depth staff time. And a lot of times fees are there so that someone actually, they're like a rezone fee, the comp plan fees are in place so that people aren't just doing it for the sake of doing it. Because they do involve a lot of time, so. Maybe you're gonna have a public hearing fee, because there's a cost to the village to
Sure.
do that.
I think a lot of our fees and public hearing, or if anything, we're getting a public hearing just covers our publication costs for the most part. We
Pretty
don't really
much,
cover,
yeah,
we don't really
Depends on
charge
what it
for
is.
our staff time so much.
we don't.
Publication costs.
I mean, sometimes the publication costs, like on a comprehensive plan map amendment, if I have to do a legal description, they can cost anywhere from $600 to $900 just for a hearing notice.
Okay.
And then you still have to do ordinances and things like that, so typically we don't recoup those fees.
Any other questions for Jen?
I have one.
Mark?
Mr. Wong?
These are, the intent is to have public sewer and water for these, obviously, right? I mean,
Yes,
and the only reason I wanted to confirm that is, you're deleting 94.2.02 sub 4 sub A. That's on page 2-5 in the normal numbering. It's on page 24 of the 325 red line. And in that section, that's the section where listing and purposes of the standard zoning districts. And in most of those districts, it's really nice from an ETZ perspective because there is the sentence in most of them that talks about whether it's private or public, water and sewer. So when you delete this section on neighborhood, this is the deletion of the other districts, neighborhood and district. The sentence, development within this district is served by public sanitary sewer and water services. That gets deleted as part of this subsection there. Yes, you have it up right now. And so there's a new, in section 14 then, you have the new special zoning districts. And you have the subsection for them that is listing and purposes. Let's see if I can find the exact phrase here. Listing and purposes of special zoning districts, and that's on page 250 of 325 in the red line. But when I looked in subsection 1, which is the PD district, and subsection 2, which is the N district, that phrase specifically outlining that it's served by public sanitary sewer and water services didn't get picked up in any of these. And I know that it's not the intent to take it out, but there was an advantage, at least I thought, for looking at from the ETZ perspective, that anyone that would look or want to see if you said something about now, for example, the N or the PD, the N district with the paragraph that was being deleted, clearly they knew you can't stay in the town and be a neighborhood district. Okay? You can't stay in the town and be a PD district because we don't have the sewer and the water. The village has the sewer and the water. And it was just that much more clear at first look, I thought, for everyone. So I am not saying, I know implicitly because I looked through your sections here as to what's required under an N or a PD. And it's inherent in all of your engineering stuff. It talks about where's the proposed, you have to show a map with the proposed connection to the sewer and water and those types of things. You can find that out, and so it's implicit that if you're going into this in-depth of a zoning change and requesting it, that it would have to be sewer and water, but we just lose that phrase. So I don't know if it matters to staff or not to have that phrase in, but I just wanted to mention that I couldn't find it in the revisions after the deletion of that paragraph. And all of the other districts, we are pretty clear where it says either whether it's private, sewer and water, or whether it's public. So for what it's worth, that's my only comment. Everything else looked great, I thought.
We can add that in.
I think that your comment is quite valid. I think you could probably have a planned unit development on a private system. We had like a cluster development, could have its own private sanitary system as well. So that's a very valid comment.
I know that your future land use map, at least the 2016 one, specifically showed in the ETZ, the neighborhood districts. Is that still your current map?
Yeah.
It is. And that's why I just didn't want to get confused that if someone is looking, there obviously are chunks of land out there that have a for sale sign on them. And if someone just did a rudimentary look, you could see that if you're going to go the neighborhood route, you're going to have sewer and water and be annexed into the village, because I assume the village isn't going to allow hookup unless they're in the village. So I just point that out, that we lose that one sentence, which makes it clear in every other district what the requirements or the development thought is related to sanitary sewer and water. So if you want to put that in, it might clarify that. If it doesn't work, that's fine. It is implicit, without a doubt. Once you get to the stage of what you ask them to submit, it's clear that they have to have engineering to sewer and water, which is public, not private. But
Yeah, I don't know, I guess it's conceivable, and maybe as Chairman or President
Lauren.
White here says, well, Lauren, I'm sorry.
Lauren, okay.
And I know there's probably other creative things that can be done, like make it compatible with future sewer and water, with things internal. It's a good point. I don't know, I certainly didn't pick up on that particular issue, but that's something that might change as a result of any action taken here tonight, or is it something for, we have a public hearing yet to take place on this?
This is the public
This is it.
hearing, so if you'd like to add it in, we can
Okay,
just.
If the motion comes up, it's my understanding that the motion could include additions.
Right, yeah,
Cool.
this is the time to give us any changes before it goes to the meeting.
is that sentence that's being deleted, the development within this district is served by public sanitary sewer and water services? Is that a statement or a sentence that staff is comfortable with? Or do you want to suggest other language, or?
I can take a look at it. I think it's just that it got changed out of the front because we were putting it in the
Right.
district.
No,
That whole district got changed. The N district used to be its own article, and the way it was written, it's kind of a special district now. So they just referenced the special district, and that probably just got lost. So we can figure out how to add it back in.
So we're still under presentation by staff. Any other questions from staff or by staff? Okay. Item C, public hearing, public comment period. If the public wishes to speak at this hearing, please, if you haven't filled out the public comment form, please do so, and you can turn it into clerk prior to the meeting. However, we will allow in-person comments at this time, still limiting your comments to 5 minutes. If you wish to comment on this particular item, item 9. Anyone else? Anyone want to hear? Speak? Okay. Anyone want to speak? One more time. Anyone want to speak? Hearing none others, I'll close the public hearing. Item E, discussion by Plan Commission and ETZ members. Milt, you first.
I guess, is there anybody want to have a motion to add that phrase back into the
This is, okay,
That's
discussion.
water? What's the committee's thoughts?
I would say, yeah.
So I agree, I think it should be in there too, that way it makes it a lot clearer.
Yes.
Any other discussion? Any commission?
Anyone on the Plan Commission wishes to discuss, comments?
I like what Mark had to say, what needs to be added in, I agree, so.
Makes it
I think it
clear.
makes it clear, yeah.
Okay. Is there any discussion by Plan Commission or ETZ members? Recommendation from staff.
We're recommending that you send this on to the board for approval.
Is there a motion by the ETZ committee to send this to the village board? The addition?
Mark, do you want to do it?
Do you want the ETZ to go first?
That's what it's on the agenda here.
Yeah, I was gonna make a motion to go after the plan commission, but that's fine, since I guess I muddied the water here.
It's a horse apiece, one way or the other.
Well, it's obviously, we don't want to do anything inconsistent with the vote to the plan commission for approval, but I guess that the board could do whatever they're.
I don't have a problem with the Plan Commission going first if you feel that's appropriate.
So, no, that's fine. I'd make a motion, to approve with the addition, however, staff desires that to be put in, similar to the sentence that was deleted, development within the district is served by public sanitary sewer and water services. So that's clear that that's applicable to both the N and the PD.
For a second,
I'll second that.
motion made and second to recommend to go to the village board with the addition of adding the phrase sewer and water is required for a planning development district. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We recommend to the village board. Planning commission.
Excuse me. Who seconded that motion?
Steve Minell.
Thank you.
Okay. Item H, action and recommendation to the village board by the Plan Commission. Anyone care to make a motion?
I make a motion to follow up exactly as Mark's with staff. Their best, how they best see suited to include the sewer and water into the N and the new PUD district.
I second.
We have a motion by Garrett, and a second by Cronin. On the question. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? So carried. Thank you.
Any remarks from the ETC members of the meeting? Is there a motion to adjourn the ETC committee?
Motion to adjourn.
A second?
Second.
Motion made and second to adjourn the ETZ committee for May. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. ETZ committee is adjourned.
Thank you, Milton, your committee.
Hey, Randy.
We'll move move on to item 12. And I want to apologize right ahead that I don't get this last name correct. Someone please correct me. Public hearing, project number 20210-136 Alexander Legal, is that correct?
Legal.
Legal.
Sorry.
Let's say that, but
Um,
thank you. 7005 Brianna Street requesting a conditional use permit to allow a proposed accessory structure for residential use exceeding 15 feet in height at his property at 7005 Brianna Street within the SF-S Single Family Residential Small Zoning District. The building is proposed to be 20.5 feet tall. The property is described as part of the northwest quarter of the southwest quarter lot 2 CSM volume 2525 PG. It's 167 DOC 966223 of section 24, township 28 north, range 8 east, village of Weston, Marathon County, Wisconsin. The parcel is identified as pin number 192-208-243-0984. I'll open the public hearing. Presentation by applicant.
AJ, if you'd like to give a presentation on kind of.
Okay,
what you're looking
please,
to do, what-
your name and address for the record, please.
AJ Legal.
Continue.
And I guess I'm just looking for the building height to go to the 20.5 feet over the 15-foot standard. Reason being for just having a little bit more storage area.
The plan commission have any questions for Mr. Legal?
What's the current height on the existing facility, the existing home?
I guess that I do not know at the time.
Is your proposed garage taller than your existing home height?
I believe it's probably pretty close to the same.
If it's a one-story house, it's about 19 feet, is typical, 18, 19.
Depending upon the roof pitch, yeah.
So what type of storage are you planning for this building? In other words, are the trusses going to be engineered to carry a certain amount of weight?
Yes, it'll be engineered for the, I believe the size would be 12 feet. They'd be engineered just to have storage just for seasonal stuff such as chairs, kids' toys and such. Nothing quite out of the ordinary for weight wise.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, item C, public hearing, public comment period. This is the point in the hearing where public can make comments for or against. Either way, is there anyone that wishes to speak for or against? Is there anyone who wishes to speak for or against? One last time. Anyone wishing to speak for or against? Anyone on social media or Zoom that wishes to make a comment? None. I'll close the public hearing. Discussion by Plan Commission. Commissioners, comments, observations, questions? Short discussion. F, staff report.
Sure, the one thing I'll throw out, so the size of the proposed building is 672 square feet. In addition to the shed, he does still stay within the 800 square feet total that's permitted for the zoning district. So kind of one of the reasons for going taller is to not have to go larger and thus you get this conditional use on either side. And staff recommends approval.
I have a question for staff. Considering some of the problems we've had in the last couple of years concerning layouts of buildings and where they are we assured that this is within the setback distances of the lot line?
as in, do we know where the lot line is?
Well, we have just had discussions in the past about drawings on a napkin, how accurate are they, and is it,
So what he has presented does meet code. And
Right, I know
he
that.
gets the permit, Scott and Roman will do another review, and then when it's built, they'll be checking that it's actually what it is in the field.
building inspectors before he lays the slab?
Well, it's utilizing an existing concrete slab right now.
Okay, thank you, that answers the question.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Item G, action by plan commission?
I move to approve conditional use permit 202-10136, allowing a detached accessory structure for residential use exceeding 15 feet in height at 7005 Brianna Street.
Okay, moved by Cronin, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Minell. On the question? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? So carried. Item 13, project number 20210, I'm sorry I have to read these. 127, Gary Mall at 5401 Birch Street, Weston, requesting conditional use permit to allow proposed accessory structure for residential use exceeding 800 square feet and exceeding 15 feet in height at his property at 5401 Birch Street within the SF-S Single Family Residential Small Zoning District. The building is proposed to be 2,000 square feet and is 19.5 feet high. The property is described as part of the northwest quarter of the southeast quarter, lot 4, CSM volume 28, page 186, 7413, DOC 1001202, section 17, township 28, range 8 east. Parcel is identified as pin number 192-2808-174-0904. And I'll open the public hearing. Presentation by applicant. Is Mr. Wall present? Step forward, name and address for the record, please.
Right. I'm Jess from Quality Built Garages in Merrill. My address 5411 Snellgart Drive. And I'm here to represent Mr. Gary Mall. I recognize a few people around here, thank you.
Valerie, did you get that? Hello?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. Please continue.
Okay, anyway, this is a project very typical to a lot of them that we do. I don't know, in your packet, do you have any pictures of what the property looks like at this point? If not, I've got some color pictures I could send with you. We have a scenario where he has multiple buildings on the project and they're all pretty much chicken coops. And he has an extremely large yard that he is building on. And he would like to build a building that is actually not quite 2,000 square foot. He can't get back his request up to 1,600. He'll take it if he can get it. Anyway, the building we propose is to raise and remove the existing structures for a new concrete slab. His slab is located in an ideal spot. The property is surrounded by tall trees and he's substantially far off of his property lines. The building that we proposed, I don't know if you've seen it in your packet or not, but we have what I would consider to be there you go. I'm actually a building drafter myself, so we try to build structures that are very aesthetically pleasing. And what you see here is what anybody driving by in a car or otherwise would see from the street. Everything's being updated, the electric, concrete slabs. There's the homeowner's doing nothing. It's a turnkey project for him. The building height is exactly 19.2, give or take a fraction of an inch, but his house, I estimate to be about 16 feet and some inches, but it might be a little bit higher depending on where you measure from around the house. Any other questions you might have for me, everybody?
Plan commission members, questions?
What is this being used for?
He's got a lot of cars and they're kind of parked in the trees and they're in his yard, and it's generally, his buildings are full. I see he's got some other structures there too that we're cleaning up, but essentially his building is just to store his own personal toys. There's no business of any sort going on there. He's not, mechanic or something like that.
For stuff that's not zoned for business.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Well, it's good for the garage business, but people sure have a lot of toys. They need places to put them, so there we are.
Are there any other questions for the applicant? Representative? Okay, thank you. Don't go too far yet.
Okay, thank you.
Item C, public hearing, public comment period. Are there any written or other comments? None? Is there anyone that wishes to speak for or against? In the audience and or on Zoom?
Lauren.
Sure. Name and address for the record, please.
Lynn Lovells.
Could you come up?
Oh,
At the pool.
I just want to,
Sure.
It's all right.
Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
We look scary, but we're not.
Just go ahead. Yeah.
I don't bite. Lynn Lodholt's address is 3916 North Potsdam, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. My question just is regarding the building of the garage. When would it take place? How long might the construction take?
Well, I can answer all those questions for you.
Thank you.
I can address the board, or should I just talk to?
Up at the podium. Thank you.
All right, well, we're a company of what you call 90% planning and 10% doing. So pending this approval of this permit, believe it or not, we'll actually be started in there in the next couple of days. The old building has to come out, concrete has to come out, new concrete forms are set, inspected, new slab. But to answer your question, he'll be walls up probably by the end of June. And when we do a project, I've done almost 1,000 already, is we work consecutive days. We don't start anything and then go somewhere else and come back. If it's a 10-day job, they're there for 10 days. Or if it's a 2-day job, which sometimes they are, they come by, go along that fast too.
Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Thank you.
Now, we keep our mess to a minimum too.
But you still have to wait for the concrete to cure though.
Yeah, that's true. It's not that long, a couple of weeks.
Okay. Are there any other public comments? Okay. Either for or against, any other comments? Any other comments for or against? Hearing none others, I'll close the public hearing. Discussion by the Plan Commission. Commissioners? Anything?
Jen, what is the code maximum 800? Or is the square foot up, is it still 60% of the size of the home?
It's 800 square feet for this zoning district is what you're allowed without a conditional use. You can recommend, or you can request a conditional use and there's no maximum on that.
Okay. Looks like he's got a nice enough sized lot.
Fairly large compared to the others.
Yep.
It's almost 2 acres, I believe.
That'd be over acre, like an acre and a half.
It was 1.5.
Just under 2.
Any other discussion by Plan Commissioners? Okay. Staff report?
Basically what Jess said, we believe it would help clean up the lot, consolidate down from the excessive number to one nice confined. It would help collect items that are sitting out in the yard into a confined area. So we recommend approval.
Okay. Item G, action by Plan Commission.
I'll move for approval.
Moved by Minell for approval,
Second.
second by Garrett. On the question? All in favor say aye. All opposed? So carried. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Jess. I'll be there tomorrow.
This next one is not a hearing, correct?
It is. This is the rezone
Oh, okay, item 14. Thank you.
and comp plan amendment.
Right. Item 14, project number, I know why you wanted to read here, so you didn't have to read all this. Project number 20210137 Heath Tappy of Denyon Homes at 5309 Schofield Avenue, Weston, on behalf of property owners William Hinner and Margaret Catahenry, 172577 Boundary Road, Hatley, Wisconsin, 544 4-0, requesting the official zoning map and future land use map be amended to change the zoning designation and land use designations on the following properties owned by William Henner and Margaret Canner Henry. Pardon me, this will take a while to read.
I think you can reference if you don't wish to read it all. We'll be
Oh, I
here
just
for
love
2
reading.
hours.
That's not fair.
What?
I think you should have to read it.
I will. Okay, a zoning of the northern 918,713 square feet of 29.091 acres, more or less, from RR5 rural residential -5 acre zoning district and AR agricultural residential zoning district 2. MF multiple family residential zoning district and land use designation from planned neighborhood to multiple family residential. I will read each one of these in its turn or all together.
I would do all of it because the rezone request is for all, they're not separate items.
Gotcha.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just at a point of time, if you reference the PIN numbers,
Will that be sufficient for the record?
Yeah, it's probably easier just to show the map,
Okay.
because no one's gonna understand what
PIN numbers
you're saying
anyway.
anyway.
Yeah.
And it's dividing parcels like.
Yeah, so there's multiple parcels involved.
We don't have the PIN number on there.
Oh, Michael, I think has the division, never mind, down. I think it's after that one.
Right
There we go. That's the map.
So the brown area is the multifamily. The green area would be the duplex, the two-family, and then the rest of the project is single-family.
Okay, does anybody have the PIN number for these properties?
They're in the hearing, so it would be ending 0993, 0992, and ending 0998.
Thank you. We will include those in the reading of the hearing. Okay. Is it clearly identified enough for staff and for the public? Okay. I'm going to open the public hearing. A presentation by the applicant. Name and address for the record, please.
Nick Bancic from Marathon Technical Services, 404 Franklin Street in Wausau, on behalf of Heath Tappy and Dinian Homes. And just a point of, for the record, they do own the property now, so the other property owners that were listed are no longer valid. So yeah, we're just asking to rezone it in a transitional zoning. Also, the future land use map had this as a neighborhood district, which as part of the neighborhood district, you are required to have a commercial component to it, like a gas station, convenience store, office building, that sort of thing. So to the north of this property is the Birchwood Highlands, 3-4-story building, and to the west and south is residential. So we felt that this is a good transitional from multifamily on the north, two-family in the middle, and single-family on the south end. So if you guys have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Okay. Any questions by the Plan Commission? Mr. Guerin?
MTS. Your lots on the right-hand side there, Nick, or I'll consider the three, it looks like 50-foot lots. Jen, are those would be those used for zero lot line uses for multifamily?
Which ones are you talking about?
Those are 50-foot lots. Yeah, those right there.
No.
Those are two families, so
Maybe the duplex.
the duplex would straddle, so there'd be one half on each lot.
The
Yeah.
townhomes that you saw in the
Zero lot line.
concept
So,
plat
that's what I'm
are to
saying.
the.
There's zero lot line.
It's a zero lot line down the middle of the
That's my
duplex, yep.
That's what my question was.
Also, as point of order, we're only talking rezone right now. The preliminary plat division is later on the agenda.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Don't go too far. Item C, public hearing, public comment period. At this time, the public will be allowed to make comments either for or against this particular project. Anyone wishing to speak for or against? Anyone wishing to speak? Yes, sir. Step forward, name and address for the record.
Dennis Wada. I live at 9002 Birch Street, just down the way from this. I guess it is okay to ask questions here. I've never done this before.
Sure it is.
So the multifamily portion that we see there, it's my understanding there's another development that's happening closer to Camp Phillips in this case. So will this end up connecting to that in any capacity?
Most likely, when they come in for development, we would ask for some type of a connection, just so that there's more than one emergency access into it.
Okay.
Not necessarily like a thoroughfare, it would probably just be the residents inside that could go out either way.
Got it, okay. And how many units are we talking for the multifamily?
We think if we develop it, we think we can get 80 some units on there. But it depends on, if it's gonna be single story, 2-story, 3-story, that's all a factor. But there's a significant wetlands on the north end. There's wetlands on that east side, plus the high lines on the east side. So, that whole area can't be developed.
Got it, okay.
There's a gas line going diagonally through the middle of it.
Right. Okay. I have a question about watershed as well, because it affects me every year when there's runoff. And my guess is putting in roads. And is it going to be curb and gutter? Is it going to be ditches? What's the plan?
So the plan is for curb and gutter with a storm sewer system.
Okay.
And then we have to meet the DNR and the village stormwater runoff.
Got it. So where's the retention pond going to go then?
It'd be there's an outlet proposed right down there in the southeast corner.
Okay.
I guess to add on to the answer to that question though, the village is also making plans to reconstruct Birch Street. So that's gonna be done concurrently, I guess, with some of the construction going on here, maybe not exactly. But that would there's gonna be some changes in grading, I suppose, to kind of improve any of that drainage. I know some like your house, I guess, butts up there to Birch Street. I know some of those houses north of Leyburn have had some issues in the past. I really wasn't aware of any areas south of there, maybe Michael knows of any other issues over there.
There's a spot just,
I think we've
kind of, just kind of south of where this property ends, where there's a culvert that plugs up in the springtime and water ends up shedding across Birch Street and kind of creating an icing issue there.
Yeah.
Which home was yours? I'm just.
I live in the corner of Windsor and Birch Street. It's a great colored house.
Okay.
9002, right?
Yeah, from the corner, the bottom left-hand corner of that, I live diagonally across there. Yeah, and every year the water comes off that field and runs across the road. And so,
Before those subdivisions were in there.
yeah, I would assume that what they're gonna be doing here, that's actually probably gonna be rectified, or possibly with the Birch Street reconstruction, I would assume.
I think that's the more likely place where any issues are getting solved.
Sure.
Dr. Gallo explained it's also gonna be a bike path along Birch Street, correct?
Right, there'll be some kind of a multi-use path. Michael can probably speak to that better than me.
Yeah, as part of the reconstruction of Birch Street, we're gonna put a path on the east side of Birch Street there for, bikes, pedestrians.
Good. One last question, I'll leave you guys alone. The Birch Street currently is set for a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, and that's kind of straight through a thoroughfare. And being one of the few landowners that lives on that street, along with him as well, but I can tell you people go way faster than they should. My concern here is we're talking about an extra, what do we got? 200 families that are going to be solely coming back out onto Birch Street. What sort of traffic control are we talking about here? Are we going to add a stop sign, reduce speed down to 25, something like that, just to make it more palatable for people that are living on that road?
Well, there'll certainly be stop signs on any intersection. Birch, entering Birch.
I guess I'm talking about Birch Street proper.
I'm sorry?
I guess I'm talking about Birch Street proper.
Probably not.
I don't.
The streets that come from either east or west, probably most likely, and guarantee will have stop signs. At least that would be my thought. As far as any stop signs on Birch Street,
I was thinking just looking at it, if you, the map to the north of here, you're gonna have quite a few homes coming out either that, yeah, I guess it would be that intersection right there, wouldn't it? Does that butt up with Leyburn then, or is that's actually north of Leyburn, isn't it? Yeah, so it doesn't ever actually create a four-way stop. I guess that's what it was in my head was, some sort of control there that slows people down.
It's been my experience that people that live in a neighborhood like our subdivision are gonna find what they think is the shortest way out.
Yep.
And what you think is really goofy, they think is the greatest thing, and it's really hard to plan for where these streets are gonna come out. I personally would see them coming up to the farthest north and then coming on Birch myself. But that's me, but. Yes, there will be traffic on there, especially morning and evening when you have people coming and go. Of course, nowadays, a lot of people work from home.
I think that's what I've got for now.
Thank you. Is there any question? Gary, do you have a question?
This is off subject, but while we're talking about with Michael, is Birch Street gonna be curb and gutter on both sides to collect stormwater as well?
Survey just got done about a week ago, so we don't have that set, but the initial thought would be we'd likely keep the ditch sections just for maintaining the DNR regulations for stormwater. If we upgrade to curb and gutter, then we have to treat it somehow and try to find a pond.
I thought I saw where it was planned to have concrete ribbon shoulders.
Yeah, so it'd still be, but that'd still be ditches.
Mr. Cronin?
Do you have a design done for that yet, Ernie, or no?
No, I mean, we awarded the contract to Becker Hoppy a month ago, maybe. So, I mean, they completed a preliminary survey design, but they don't have anything set as far as a concept design yet. I mean, probably in a month or so we will, but.
Okay. My suggestion for that gentleman in the back there would be, when it comes time for you guys to do a design, if you want to come in and make a comment about the speed, that might be a good opportunity to, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong there, but I don't know, just a suggestion.
I got a comment about the speed in the cars.
Excuse me, sir.
I just,
Step forward, name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, I'm Lawrence Zimmerman. I live at 8404 Birch Street, but most of the traffic that he's referring to, and I agree with him, a lot of that traffic comes from off of Camp Phillips. A lot of traffic, instead of taking back straight up to Schofield Avenue, they cut over on Shorey, come up Birch, and then they take Weston Avenue, and then take Alderson, either into Rothschild or up towards maybe to Greenock or, when business is up in that general area. Or either they're coming out, there's a lot of traffic, and don't ask me why, from Alderson and Holland Avenue, that subdivision, whatever you call it.
Green Meadows.
Instead of getting on Camp Phillips and going north, they'll cut through up Birch Street and then go back over to Camp Phillips. Why they don't get on Camp Phillips right there off of Shorey or Holland, I have no idea, but that's the way the traffic moves.
I understand. I worked traffic for 30 years, so I understand.
Well, and I ought to know. I lived there and I lived there 70 years, believe it or not. Okay. My dad bought my house the year I was born. So I lived there my whole life.
Are there any questions for this gentleman? None? Okay, we have a written comment. I think we should read these and perhaps.
Is that part of this is just for the rezone, right? Is that in the next section?
So the email came in for the rezone.
Oh, it did. Okay, I'm sorry.
It does start getting gray on to which item was talking.
So the village has received a email from Betsy Villard, is that correct?
I think it was from her husband.
Her husband, okay. At any rate, it says, it states, please see my written testimony regarding the proposed rezoning project at 8111 Birch Street. I have concerns about the project for the following reasons. It was included in the packet. And I don't know if you have seen them. Okay, the first question talks about flooding in there, talks about, heck, I'll read it. Flooding, rainfall from the 8111 Bird Street field has run into our Windermere Oak subdivision along the backside of Leeds Court. Disruption of this field would make flooding a large concern, and at whose cost? What are the guaranteed measures that will be taken to avoid such an event? Many of our sump pumps already continuously run days on end after rainfall. You may recall a similar event in Cronutter when townhomes were under construction, disrupting the soil. Flooding occurred at the expense of several homeowners near the County Highway X in Panalea Road, something.
Aniola.
Yeah, something like that. 2, traffic. What plans are there to address safety issues along Birch Street? There are no sidewalks or lighting at this time. And item 3, map. The existing map suggests upwards of 75 homes, with most of the larger lots closest to the wood line and small lots closest to Birch Street. What are the plans for a buffer along Birch Street, since the wood line is a buffer on the other side? So who wishes to address these?
Sure, I can address the second two. Well, Michael can help me with the second, and then he can handle flooding. So regarding the map, so the reason why they're larger on that one side is it's the wetland. So they were larger to accommodate that they're not buildable. So kind of that just got shifted to those lots. And so there's wetland on the east side and not the west side as much. So hence the smaller lots on the west side. In regards to the buffer, code doesn't require a buffer on Birch Street as it is it's a local street, right? Local, it's arterial is where, so that would be like Schofield Ave, Camp Phillip is considered an arterial road. And at that point, it would be required to put a buffer to any houses that would back it up to that kind of road. But since this is a local, the code doesn't require it. Most people will probably put fences up when they build houses, is typically what we see. Birch Street, there's the Birch Street reconstruction with sidewalks and I believe some lighting going in, Michael.
And it's going to install lighting at intersections, as default.
So there is, Birch Street's getting redone to accommodate pedestrians, walkability there. And I think that covers those two questions, and then flooding, I will defer to
I think the gentleman
Michael on
there
that.
can answer those questions because you referred to it as far as the DNR conforming with DNR standards.
So there is with this development, they can't shed any more water off the property once everything is constructed as to what they have now. So there should be no more water coming off the property.
Should be way less.
And right, if it's not.
Yeah, I would think developing this would help
Channel.
move water in the direct channel, in the proper channels more
Into that
efficiently.
wetland area.
I'm just trying to figure out how we get down Weston Avenue with ditching. How do we where do we put a bike trail through there, a bike path, and then what do we walk through the ditch to get to it, or? Birch Street, sorry.
Michael, did you get that question?
What was your question?
My question is, without putting curb and gutter down, how do we enforce putting curb and gutter into a subdivision right across the road how many years ago and requiring these guys to put curb and gutter and sidewalks on both sides of the street, and we're gonna redo Birch Street and not put curb and gutter in?
And we'll have,
And I'm confused, the other thing is how do we get across to get our bicycle path or walking path for any of these people? Well, do we just walk through the ditch to get to it, or?
so it still will have the concrete shoulder, it'll have that, the Misty Pines look where it'll still have a street, it'll have the shoulder, concrete, it'll have a gutter, maybe not a curb. And it'll have the ditch, but it'll be, I guess, set up like that at street crossings. You're not gonna have to walk through the ditch to get to it, it'll have crosswalks across the Leyburn. I guess that's how I would envision it, just like how in Misty Pines and the Weston School neighborhood and Crestwood Acres reconstruction project, you can still have that pedestrian path. And here we opted for, a 10-foot multi-use path, just because it is, primarily it's gonna be, I don't wanna put it, it's people's backyards primarily, except for a few houses that front Birch Street. It primarily is just a
Backyards.
a backyard, so we put sidewalk in, now we're asking people to, I guess, get their snow blowers through their backyards and take care of it. You know, the subdivision on the west side, a lot of those houses, there is a privacy fence already on that side. So, you know, the multi-use path is consistent with what's on Camp Phillips Road already, and, you know, even Weston Avenue, we have the multi-use path, and then going north over the highway on the Ped Bridge. You know, so I guess that's the thought process on that, is maintaining that larger path. So, I mean, so I guess to your point, we'll make it so the crossings are at grade. You know, there'll still be some storm sewer to convey the water underneath the road at those places.
Excuse me.
I just wanted to make sure we're holding up to the same standards or requiring new development as well. That's all.
Thank you.
Yeah, internally, if they have the same infrastructure proposed, I mean, it'd be consistent with what we require.
Mr. Donner.
I guess I just want to follow up and, you know, to do it perhaps the way that you're suggesting we do it, there will be some significant grading issues that have to be dealt with on the center line of Birch Street. You know, that's put in higher than most of the surrounding ground, so it's a little bit different situation, maybe a lot bit different situation. So I think we're talking about trying to do this in a way that's more economical overall, but still following the same standards. So.
I agree with you, Keith, but the developer likes to do it more economical as well. And I'm just bringing a point up to make sure that we have a gentleman that's here tonight proposing it, and we're asking him to do double of what we're requiring. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I know he's going back to a prior discussion that happened here already, so I think we're just trying to comply with our own ordinance here as well and dealing with the existing situation, so that's.
Best we can, yeah, understood.
It's different than, you know, going out to a whole new piece of property, I guess.
But I guess I would argue it's no different if the subdivision going in proposed a ribbon curve with ditches and a 10-foot path that meets what our code says is an acceptable, you know, typical section, so.
Any other public comment? I think we're still on that item.
I don't know if we addressed the question of the lady. I think the difference between her example in Cronin is high groundwater versus we're dealing with surface water in this case and heavy soil.
Referring to the flooding that occurred because of the disruption. So
I think.
May I address?
Sure. Name and address for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Mary Clues. My address is 127 Kent Street in Wausau. I am, however, the personal representative of the estate of Alfred Clues. His address is 8102 Birch Street, directly across from this property. Having been raised there and spent almost as much time as Mr. Zimmerman in that neighborhood, I would just recommend that there are some real considerations taken for the number of wetlands. We're actually not dealing with entirely surface water in that area. And the last time things were done for like Birchwood Highlands and redoing Birch Street up toward Weston Avenue, there were some changes in the hydrology that happened because of the construction. And I think to respect the neighbors who have been there for some time, that it would just behoove us to consider what we're doing that's changing things for other people. There are significant wetlands, and they're not like exactly lowland mostly. There's a lot of wet ground in that area. It's almost like Gasca Park, if you're familiar with Rothschild, where there's springs coming up. So I just would like that to be taken into consideration as they go forward. I don't speak against the project, but to take some consideration for the neighbors that are already there, I think would be just considerate for the people who've been paying taxes for a very long time. Thanks.
Thank you. Emily, do you want to address that, or do you want our applicant representative to address the wetland issue? From my understanding, it's really expensive to do anything with wetland, the DNR won't let you touch them.
Correct, that's my understanding is, that's one of the reasons why this is set up the way it is. We tried seeing if the applicant could get another road through there, but the wetlands is a big deciding factor on the layout of this property. So, unless you got anything to add to that?
Correct, it's been delineated by a professional wetland delineator, so we're just going by their direction.
Okay. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak for or against?
Can I speak?
Name and address again for the record, sir.
Dennis Wada, 9002 Birch Street. Just thinking about this, and this is my comment of thinking out loud. It seems to me that this project is tied to the reconstruction of Birch Street. And I guess before I would, if it's me giving my comfortable vote for yes, let's go ahead and do this, I wouldn't personally feel comfortable until we saw plans and here is what we are going to do with Birch Street. Because you've heard testimony from basically everybody that lives in that area. We're concerned about the water. We're concerned about where things are gonna go. We're concerned about what's gonna happen to our property. We're already there. So I guess from my perspective, I would, like she said a second ago, I'm not saying we shouldn't do this. I think it looks like it's gonna be just fine. I just feel as though it's tied very much to that reconstruction, especially, the water and I guess the traffic. So, and the foot traffic. You think of all the families that are gonna be wanting to go for walks in the neighborhood and runs and the kids on their bikes and things like that. As it sits right now, Birch Street is not conducive to that whatsoever. And adding that many houses to it would not be a good thing.
Thank you. Michael, would you care to address that?
As far as the drainage?
Also the bike ped path that's gonna be.
Yeah, so, I guess that's one of the reasons that Birch Street was on the radar to be reconstructed is, it's not a great spot for, vehicles and people to share the surface. It's a narrow roadway, and, with people who do want to travel, via bike on foot, it doesn't make for a safe road. So that was one of the reasons is creating a separated, dedicated path off pavement so people can feel safe walking with their family and not, thinking they have to play frog or dodging cars as they go, try to take their dogs for a walk around the neighborhood. I foresee there being, maybe some head crossing signals at a couple of the intersections, some of those things, just a light as part of the reconstruction project, not anything that, this subdivision would go put in, but, find ways to make those crossings a little safer, alerting residents and drivers that, that traffic's gonna be hopefully more alert to people crossing the road, because, I unfortunately was one of those people that, many years ago, going to and from high school, would go down Birch Street because Alderson Street and Camp Phillips to Weston Avenue just seemed to take a little longer. So yes, people do cut through on Birch Street, and, I think except for maybe some cows that got out at one point, there really wasn't a whole lot stopping you as you went from Shorey up to Weston Avenue. So, I understand that, that can become a raceway, for people. So I will definitely look at what we can do to try to mitigate that to a certain extent. But, in drainage wise, I think some of the problem is, especially on the west side of the road, as Mr. Donner alluded to, the road is higher than the adjacent development, so the water just, there's no ditch to kind of hold it back in the roadway, it just sheds off the road and goes and drops. So, as part of the reconstruction, we'd find a way to make sure that that water from the road stays within the right of way instead of, crossing down into, Mr. Zimmerman's yard or, your yard. And keep that conveyed within the right of way instead of on the private property. So unfortunately, we're not that far along to say, these are the contours, these are the grades, this is exactly, but conceptually, that's what we would do, what we'd be looking to do is to keep that water within the roadway instead of shedding it onto private property.
Mr. Garrett?
Michael, at this point, can you comment, or do you have any idea on the width of that road? Is it similar if you zoom up onto the map where 7805 is? Is it widened out enough, is that the presumable width of the road, or is that opened up to 4-lane up there? I just can't remember if that's
Right at Weston Avenue,
lane.
it gets wide enough for the turn lanes. And we're not looking to put in a 40-foot section of pavement like it is by Birchwood Highlands.
Yep.
We're looking at more of maybe 28 feet,
And then the pedestrian walk would be on which side?
like the east side,
Okay.
so,
Yeah, because the west side, you're right, everything drops off into those properties.
yeah.
So right now, that would be a major benefit to anybody living on the west side if you kept all the water retained on into the village ditching and stuff to get it out of there.
Mr. Cron?
I'm just curious what your timeline is looking like right now.
We'd like to continue the plans and finalize and get all the approvals and start construction this fall yet.
Okay. And how soon do you think you're gonna have a design for Birch Street?
We probably have a final design by this fall. Probably look to bid it, and, start construction right away in the spring.
Okay.
I mean, a little bit of.
Can I ask another question? Sure. Podium, name and address for the record, please.
Dennis Wada, 9002 Birch Street. Is that project confirmed? And that, I guess, was the point of my question earlier.
Yeah,
Is the money set aside and it's going to happen? It just hasn't been designed.
yeah, I mean, we've obtained a DOT grant for the reconstruction of the project. We've got a design engineer hired to do the project for us. So, yeah, I guess it's part of our capital improvement plan.
And that really was my biggest concern was we get that and then we lose the money for Birch Street and then we have. So,
I don't know if you're aware of it, but Birch Street was intended to be reconstructed how many years ago, Michael? 4 or 5 years ago?
A while, yeah.
It was deferred for other projects?
and there lies my concern.
The money is there, we have to spend, we lost money last time, this money is there, it's spent.
So last time around, the village had gotten funds for a multi-use path only. And, so that was part of the hangup is we got money from the DOT as part of a grant program to put in a multi-use path. But that seemed like a bad use of resource to put in a brand new multi-use path when the rest of the street still needed to be reconstructed. So that was one of the reasons why that project did not move forward at the time.
Thanks.
I got it, Danielle. Sorry. Go ahead. Yes, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
My name's Heath Tappy, owner of Denny Homes. Just a couple of things that we're talking about. One is the internal stormwater system will take all the water to the southeast. So there shouldn't be impervious surface from this subdivision going out to Birch Street. I think it's a separate issue from the Birch Street reconstruction, my opinion. I wonder who has jurisdiction over speed. Is that county or is that village?
So it would be the village, it's village ordinance, so.
So however, we can support whatever the village recommendation is with that.
It's involved with Everest Metro.
It's just by
And we do
ordinance.
follow the state guidelines for setting speed limits on roadways as far as the distances and what you can set them at, because you set it at a speed that's lower than it says you can, then technically you can't enforce it.
Yeah, I don't have a concern either way, just, the other thing is I met with the village, probably as early as October of last year, maybe sooner, identified this property because it was a property that the village recommended to be developed in the future. Our goal would be to be prepared to begin construction on August 1st. And if the bids and things don't come out, we got to get our developers agreement finished, get the bids in and see where the numbers are at. The other option would be to start later, but we'd like to have everything ready and approved for construction as early as August 1st.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I just want to make it clear. I mean, I live on Alderson, kind of kitty corner from Mr. Zimmerman, in the back, it's the Easter's farm. I got like a 5-foot ditch, you know, off of Alderson, and this water concern that everybody has, I mean, there's nothing being proposed going in on the west side of the road, is it, on Birch?
And we ditch it, I mean,
I don't think there's ditches there now, is there?
No.
we try to put in some resemblance of a ditch on the west side. I mean, so that's what I'm saying, the elevations, the profile of the road isn't set, but, you know, the concept of a ditch on both sides of the road is what we'd look at,
So he's gonna lose part of his front yard then?
well, I mean, it's the right of way, so I mean, we're not looking at needing any more right of way than what's there.
I got a question there, when you say you don't need any more right of way, I beg that pardon there.
Okay.
Up at the podium, sir?
I live at 8404 Birch Street, right across the road there. I got a up-to-date abstract on the road. It's a 3-rod road in front of me. You get up to the end of my 40, it turns into a 4-rod road. I don't know what it is south of me along Windmower Oaks. On my property, my abstract says I got a 3-rod road. And if it's a 3-rod road, I'm not gonna have a problem with the road coming too close to my house, but if somebody pushes the button there a little bit to change it to a 4-rod road, then the right of way comes right up under to my house within a few feet. Something to think about.
Yep, and I guess, like I said, the survey was done last week, I don't have that data back yet, so, you know, when we get that information back, you know, we might have to go with a curb section along a part of it, and, you know, maybe even, you know, I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is there's still unknowns as
Very
to
premature.
how it's gonna work, but, we'll figure it out.
Yep, understood.
We are still under public comments, correct? Any other comments from the public, either on Zoom or phone or in person? For or against? Any other comments for or against? Any other comments for or against? Hearing none, and no one else, Michael?
Mary, your hand is still up, do you have another question or no?
Nope, sorry about that.
That's all right.
Your arm must be tired by now. Okay, I'm gonna close the hearing. Item E, discussion by plan commission. Commissioners?
Jenner,
go ahead. Mr. Garen.
Jenner, Emily, do we have a hammerhead or something that's just gonna be gravel at the end of that proposed street?
What are you talking about?
The dead end,
On top?
yeah. Is that just, or is that close enough to the intersection for fire and ambulance?
They asked for it just to go through.
Point, I guess, for a point of order, we're talking about the rezoning here at this stage.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The preliminary plan is the next item underneath.
Okay.
So you're being asked to change, so first being asked if you're okay with recommending to the board a change in the comprehensive plan, and then recommending the rezone. So the rezone would then the board would take and have a public hearing on the comprehensive plan amendment. I think it would be at a meeting in
June 21st.
June 21st at their meeting. And then they would, if it's recommended, then the rezone would be acted on at that meeting also. Because in order for consistency, both of them have to, basically the comprehensive plan amendment has to take place. So I know it gets a little bit confusing, but you're being asked to change the future land use map. And then they're asking to rezone it into these 3 different zoning classifications.
Any other commission members comment? Okay. Item F, staff report.
Jen, said it real well. I will say you all were handed out, the RFC for the comprehensive plan amendment. Apologies, that was on the agenda. It just did not get into the packet, so that is what is printed. So Plan Commission actually has to sign a resolution with their recommendation of the comprehensive plan amendment to village board. So that's what that document is, as part of that, so. But, you know, this has kind of been future growth area. It was planned neighborhood, for future land use, so very similar to what is being requested. Just going more the residential route than commercial.
So I have a clarification question. So we're actually gonna take two actions at the end of this hearing, correct?
You'll recommend it by resolution to the board.
This one?
That's the resolution. That would then get moved on to the village board, and basically is given to them at the public hearing. And then you would be asked to, recommend the rezone.
Two actions, correct?
Two actions, correct.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Jen, can I get a copy of that?
Of which?
The resolution.
If it's not, there's an extra one at Mark Maloney's seat there. Oh, Mr. Shane was being left.
Thank you.
There you go. Anything else from staff?
No, as Emily said, this area was looked at as being kind of a mixed use, transitioning with some type of multifamily to the north into a single family subdivision. That's basically how it's been looked at for the last number of years.
And we have heard information about subdivision going into the,
So there's a multifamily project to the east.
Just conceptual at this point, nothing.
right, I understand.
So right now, we're just talking about the rezone and the comp plan amendment, correct?
Yeah.
And then the next item is
Next,
the plat,
the
correct?
Plat, yep,
Okay.
we'll explain that.
So we're looking for a motion to approve the resolution.
Yep,
Yes.
but if you're okay with the
I'll make a
comprehensive.
motion to approve resolution number 2021-PC-001.
We have a motion by Mr. Garrett, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mumper. On the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried. Thank you. Item H, discussion and recommendation to the board of trustees on the rezone request. Anyone care to make a motion?
I vote for approval.
Mr. Marnell?
I'll second.
Do you have any stipulations that you want for that?
Not for the rezoning.
Okay, sorry.
I guess you could add to the rezone stipulation would be contingent on preliminary
Comprehensive plan.
approval, because you don't want the rezone to go through if the preliminary plat never reaches final. If you wanted to throw.
Yes, please, yes.
Would like to amend your motion?
Yes, to include that the final plat is approved.
I second.
Been motioned and second? Valerie, did you get the motion? I take that as a yes. Anything else on the question? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried. Thank you. Are we on to item 15? Okay, new business, project number 2021-0077. Discussion and action on a proposal preliminary plat for the Hinter Springs subdivision.
So since we haven't had a preliminary plat for quite a while, I don't think this group has ever seen one. The way this works is we have to put in whatever we want that final plat to look like. Anything that you want to see in the final plat needs to be put and listed as basically conditions of the preliminary plat. So as long as they meet all those conditions, then basically when the final plat comes in, it gets approved. So this is the time that, you get what you want into this development. We've given you a few recommendations in there. I know that we interpreted the discussion at the conceptual with the sidewalks a little differently than the applicant did. So that's something to discuss this evening.
I just have one comment on the conditions that are listed here. When it comes to the postal service saying we want the CBU, it's like, to me, if I lived in this area and I have to walk a half mile down the road to get my mail, I wouldn't like that.
There's not much choice.
There isn't much choice anymore.
No.
Really?
They basically are,
So why do they say preferred? Why don't they say ordered?
They tell you pretty much right now.
We don't
Have
prefer it
2 or
either.
3,
Oh.
so space it out.
I wouldn't either.
It's gonna all go in that direction.
Pretty soon all mail will go away anyway,
Yes.
except for junk mail.
No, that's the first option.
I'm not sure what, and this maybe I'm out of order here, but I'm not sure, we had a situation with that on another development where the post office then wanted us to be responsible for life for those. And I said, well, how can you do that? So I'm not sure, Heath, what they're requiring of you, but we just said no. If we're gonna put these in, they're yours. So you can't be responsible for mailboxes or a hut or a building. If you're gonna build a building around here, that's gotta be some sort of, they're requiring you, from what I read in here, requiring you to have coverage over these. I don't know who's gonna be responsible for maintaining these? You know,
Right, yeah, we haven't gone down that road, but we're not planning on putting a hut. We have a concept.
yeah, he did give me the concept.
yeah,
So we've just done as much, we just negotiate with them as good as we can. So Plover has been the most aggressive in requirements of the developers, and we're managing keys, and, you know, we have a whole 5-page report on how to transfer keys and ownership, and then, you know, there's been just different challenges with we're just trying to make it reasonable. So I guess the counter to what they're doing is everything's being delivered by Amazon, and I think the big mailboxes, one in front of every yard would be better, because it would help the delivery services that are going house to house, but I don't think we're gonna get that, so we'll try to minimize. I think last 2 developments we did, we have a pull off, and I think they'll be reasonable. Weston's gonna be different than Cronaware. We got different postmasters we're dealing with, and we just gotta negotiate.
we negotiated with, well, the one you purchased from us, Heath, we negotiated with it to put a bank of at least a minimum of 6 to help that. But they make the route where they're gonna drive through.
Yeah.
Not that the post person does that, but they somewhat simulate that to keep the cost down. They feel it's fewer stops for them, less on brakes, less on start stops, whatever it may be, but.
What's the village's stance on, I mean, what's the post office asking of the village?
I don't think we have any choice.
We're still trying to get the post office to recognize the village of Weston. It's not the city of Schofield. That's been going on from 1996.
1986.
And
It's in the right of way, right? I
the
mean,
post office feels that it's the village or town's responsibility before development even starts, that they get incorporated in it. So you can design a turning lane or a separate spot for you to pick the mail up. Which I'm not sure where there's requirements. I asked for copies of
We
it.
haven't done a whole lot with them. They've
Yeah.
just suggested, I think the last one was Misty Pines, and
Yeah, we had we argued back and forth for quite a bit with that one,
we
but.
kind of left it up to the post office to.
So is this a developer agreement thing that's between, the developer and the post office approved by the village? Is that kind of how it's written?
Developer going to the post office?
No, how do we address approval of this? Because I'm not gonna build a hut,
That's you and the post
I was
office.
just gonna say, that's just between you and them, I think. I don't think we want
but
to.
it's in your right of way, right?
Yeah.
The village has to approve it.
They don't deliver mail except under their own criteria, so, that's why they dictate where the mailboxes are placed and how tall they are.
How high?
So it's not a condition of what we're approving.
What we're doing here, no.
No.
So one other, I guess I have one question is Jennifer, did it get any further on the 911 communications with Stillwater Lane? with this?
No, they would like to use Stillwater Lane. In talking to the police chief, he felt like I did that it's gonna cause confusion with Everest Metro because basically someone's just gonna say Stillwater and they're gonna think the trailer park.
Trailer court.
So he would prefer that name change.
And Heath, it sounds like you
We
want
talked to the Marathon County, they said it was available as far as I
Well,
understand.
they say it's available, but
They're not looking at the bigger picture.
they're not looking at, yeah, we still actually
Wait,
have,
wait a second, though, don't we have I mean, Marathon County has a 911 coordinator, do they not,
they have, they went through all that, they have jurisdiction only over the rural areas. So they don't have jurisdiction over
Villages.
the village. We do all of our addressing. We conform to their guidance, so we don't do duplicate street names, things like that. But we still have the purview on, the village can name the streets. So with this one, we just think that there may be issues and the police chief agreed with that.
Heath, it sounds like there's an issue with stormwater, so why don't you call it rolling water?
Stormwater.
Just trying to make it.
Fast water.
Are you stuck with Stillwater, Heath?
Yeah, we want Stillwater, yes. If it's,
Some attachment to Stillwater, eh?
yeah.
Could we call it tap water?
Tap water. There's no street name Stillwater, correct?
No.
No, it's just the,
Justin, Tennessee.
Yeah, the mobile home park is Stillwater. What is Stillwater?
Stillwater Landing.
What are the names inside Stillwater Landing?
They don't have names.
They don't have names. So if a resident in Stillwater Landing were to call 911, they'd say, I'm in Stillwater Landing lot 90.
Yeah.
So if somebody living on Stillwater Lane says, I'm having a heart attack, I'm on Stillwater Lane 92 or whatever.
But you could also think the freaking out person of, I'm at Stillwater.
Yeah, no, I guess that's what I'm getting
Well,
at.
the other issue from E911, from what I understand of it, it comes in as a if they call 911, it comes in and identifies exactly where they are. And it's sent to the officers via computerized dispatch. This is where it is.
Even if you're on a cell phone?
Pardon?
Even if you're on a cell phone?
Yes.
It locates the placement of the phone,
Where your phone
where
is.
you're calling from.
Triangulates by the phone. There may be a little delay as compared to a landline.
So then, is there an issue with this or not?
It's up to this committee to decide whether it's an issue or not. It's up to the committee,
The village board could change it.
or it can change it also. But as chair of this, I don't see this as something to stop action on this, to be honest with you.
So number 2, Heath, there sounds like there's some miscommunication on sidewalks. Can you communicate that on your guys' end or Nick?
Yeah, if I could speak to that. We were under the impression under the last meeting when we brought the concept plat in that we would do 2-sided sidewalks on the north road that goes east-west because that has multifamily on the north side and the twin family on the south side. And so that would have more density population. And so we agree that that should have sidewalks on both sides of the road. We were proposing sidewalks just on one side of the road, everywhere else in the development. And to make it more palatable to the village, we were adding that sidewalk connection right on the very bottom of the page there, right there, between the development and Birch Street, as well as between the lots there along the A&R gas line. We thought that was a compromise from having the double-sided sidewalks. We thought that the conversation amongst planning commission members was in favor of that, and I guess we were misunderstood when that motion came back to us that way, so.
From what I recall, Nick, I thought we discussed shortening the road out. And Keith, I thought you mentioned that you would be fine if the road would be a little narrower, you'd be fine with doing the sidewalks.
I think we talked about several things, including mountable curb.
Yes.
And not with the understanding that mountable curb is an acceptable form of curb already anyhow. And then I had conversations after the meeting and we're just still requesting that we'd like it on what, as Nick is saying.
We're not asking for the roadway to be narrower than code requires. So that's not like a variance or anything that we're requesting to be different.
I have a recollection of that you originally wanted a 10-foot on one side of the road?
The code allows for that, either 5 foot on both sides or 10 foot on one side, but we were never asking for that. We were always asking for 5 foot on one side. And we know that you may say no, but that's our request.
I recall the conversations that we were talking about flag and
Yeah.
the regular flag curbs, but they had the upright part of it.
Yeah.
As a concession to do the multiple curbs.
Yeah, I mean, either one is allowed, like.
Right.
Yeah,
Just as long as it can catch the stormwater.
yeah. I mean,
Well, or the ribbon curb is allowed, which doesn't catch stormwater. So, I mean,
but use that with the ditch.
But then it's designed for ditching to be.
I agree. I'm just saying in essence,
Yes.
we're providing what's required by the code with the curb. We're not asking for a variance on that. And the only other thing that isn't really listed on your conditions that we were hoping to discuss either here or maybe that comes in the developer's agreement is street trees. The village requires street trees every so often. The developers would like to see how we can make that work better. A lot of times they get planted up front and they end up dying right away. We prefer if we can have an option to have one tree per lot and that's planted when the home is occupied or something like that. And maybe that's not a part of the preliminary plan, but I thought I would mention it now.
That'd be part of the development. I know, and I think we talked about doing that very thing.
It's actually the preference of the village arborist to do it that way.
Okay, thank you.
You gotta tell your homeowners they need to water the darn things.
Okay.
That doesn't work?
No.
I think when it comes to the sidewalk things, I just wanted to be consistent with what we're doing with everybody else throughout the village. And then just staying consistent, I think we should have sidewalks on both sides throughout the entire plat. That's just my opinion, but.
I will say take it for what it's worth. Part of the reason Jennifer opened the discussion about the preliminary plat and you not having any, since most of you have been on the plan commission, is because there hasn't been development because it's expensive. So it costs a lot of money. So to put in sidewalk on a second side for 100-foot wide lot is approximately $2,500. So you're just increasing the cost of every lot by $2,500. So it does add up,
Mr. Chairman, I was in that meeting too, and I remember it was quite a spirited back and forth. But I remember asking a few questions. I think a gentleman from Denyon Homes was here, and I just asked how much inventory of homes are out there for sale, and it's extremely sparse. I think Keith, you and I had a conversation after that too, or maybe even during the meeting, is to add whatever it was, $1,500, $2,500 to each lot. I mean, to go backwards after 2 or 3 years when the residents there are complaining or the kids are crossing the road constantly to get on the sidewalk on the other side. I know it's a savings, but I just believe it's a short-term savings for other issues and other developments that don't have any sidewalks and we hear about them constantly. And we're very, very happy you guys are doing this development. But I have to agree, I'm not on the committee anymore, or commission, but I would agree that they really do belong to be on both sides for the families, for the kids, for that community out there. I just do.
So, Public Works and Utility also approved the Crestwood Acres redevelopment and rebuild section and requires sidewalks on both sides. So the village is paying for the sidewalks on both sides. This is a new subdivision, I understand that. But we have held ourselves to the same standard. We could have gone with one sidewalk on one side, but we didn't. And all of us are paying for it, all of us taxpayers. I've been paying for both sides of the street for 40 years, and all of us have as property owners. Yes, sir.
So I think that's a valid point, and it also is something that will have to be maintained in the future. So we talked about this at the last meeting, so Windermere Oaks doesn't have a sidewalk in it. So you're gonna be inviting traffic from foot traffic, pedestrian traffic, so it diversifies it a little bit, it gives people the choice. And you still have good foot traffic out to the 10-foot lane where you're trying to get traffic to be on, to cross Birch and you use the trail system. So we're just, it doesn't make sense, in my opinion, to have subdivisions like Misty Pines, have sidewalks on both sides and have every neighbor from 3 miles around coming and walking your sidewalks. And not have a sidewalk anywhere else within 3 miles or whatever it is. So it seems like a good transition to future sidewalks, but it's, same thing with Boulevard, so when we started this conversation again back in last year and village participation and being developer friendly and wanting the developer to come in, we haven't seen concessions or help or how we're going to help the developer. And this is one way that we can be helped, but whatever you decide is, we'll honor it. I just think it's overkill.
Any other comments?
What is the impact on that, what's not doubled right now? Do you guys have an idea, Nick or Heath?
What's your question?
What's the impact, the cost impact on what's left for footage for the sidewalks, for to have it on the second side?
I don't have the total number, but just per lot, it's about 2,500. So times however many lots we cross.
So just approximately, how many would be
Probably 30
exposed
lots.
in those sidewalks? Just approximately.
Yeah, I think there's probably 40 lots that would.
40.
So 100 grand.
It's a good guess.
My neighbor just sold her house. He was asking 149.9 and she got 166. So I don't think $2,500 on a home would be super unrealistic number. That's just my 2 cents.
I have 50 suppliers and contractors that tell me the same thing. Every one of them tells me the same thing. Just add another 1,000, add another 2,000. Development's the highest it's ever been. Cost of building is the highest it's ever been. There's not many people sticking their necks out developing land right now. So.
Are these roads as wide or not as wide as,
I think Michael would probably.
if you go down Sandy Lane out there where there's no sidewalk, they seem to be really wide roads. Are these the same in comparison to this?
I thought we compromised on the road. What? I thought we compromised on the road.
60 foot.
These are at least 4 feet deep, all right?
This section, this road, the road detail here looks like it's a 30-foot wide road, where I thought we talked about going to a 24-foot width road
60.
the last time we talked.
The only thing we asked for was a 60-foot right of way as opposed to 66-foot.
Free run.
Yeah, I remember that. But you're saying that their roads are 4 feet less width than out on Sandy?
This section
It
is,
depends, yeah. The roads in Sandy vary between 30 and 34 feet of pavement. So what they're proposing is 30 feet of pavement.
That makes a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, Misty Pines was 24 feet of pavement,
Well, and I think that's a bargaining where potentially you keep the vehicles on the road and you keep the pedestrians on the sidewalks. I think then you're willing to pay, I could be wrong, but you tighten that road up, that could be a significant less. I thought we talked about this, Heath.
That was part of the conversation we had after the last hearing was, do we stay with help me remember why we thought the wider roads were better?
do you have a discussion with Michael?
No, I don't remember talking.
It could very well be, if somebody needs to,
The motion that came out of last meeting was 60-foot right away, 30-foot back-to-back curb.
And that was you and me.
And that was the
and
motion.
it could very well be because of extra park. You can't really park much on Misty. I mean, to get around it, you're going around the other lane, right? So if somebody wants, if they have a company or have a party at their house or graduation, but whatever it may be, that it is a little bit more difficult to get around it.
How wide is Misty?
24.
24?
Is it a paved width
Paved.
with 2 feet curb?
Yep.
So then it's actually, what, 28 total?
Correct.
This one's 34 total.
No, it's 30 total, right?
Well, if you include it's multiple curves, so I guess you could look at it that, yeah.
I read it as 30 total, not 34.
What's your overriding purpose for the curb and gutters? Is it safety?
Well, so like curb and gutters, a traditional curb and gutter is to convey and direct stormwater. You know, the drainage off the road,
And the sidewalk is for the safety part.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just looking at this plat saying, I mean, I live in a subdivision with no sidewalks, but we have no through traffic, because you can't drive through it. This subdivision looks very similar. I mean, is anybody coming through here for any reason unless you live in this subdivision? Because I don't see any, I mean, I don't think I'm missing something, but I don't see any reason you drive in here unless you live there.
Well, I think it's more the
Right.
people that are using it. I mean, there's a ton of people that are gonna be here.
Right, but
My father-in-law lives in Windmere Oaks. It's almost constant.
I mean, that's one of the things I look at for need for sidewalks is how much traffic will you likely have? And in this subdivision, maybe you can narrow it and put it one side without really having a public safety threat because I mean, you're never gonna run a road through the wetlands portion of it. You know, there's no intention you connect this any other way, is there? To any other thoroughfares? No?
The only connection would be to the potential multifamily to the east, but that would be internal more than thoroughfare.
Yeah, I just throw that out there as one of, I mean, as an observation from safety standpoint, I don't see a lot of traffic other than the lots that are having.
Well, go ahead. I shouldn't say it, but sorry, I'm there.
Go ahead, sir.
So could we go to a 24-foot wide road like we have in Misty Pines and then do the sidewalk on both sides? Is that an option?
That's up to this commission to decide.
Is that an option, Nick, for design?
Would be for me.
That's what we have in Misty Pines.
I personally thought that's what we discussed last time, and I apologize if I misunderstood, but I thought we were tightening up the road and putting sidewalks on both sides. You said, I agree. Yeah, if we can tighten the road up, I'll put sidewalks on both sides.
That part I do remember too.
Yeah, because I wanted to try to make a compromise as development. We understand, we can't expect to do a 34-foot road and then put sidewalks on both sides and trees because it costs way too much. So the concession would be either keep the road width and put one sidewalk or else tighten the road up and put 2 sidewalks. You know, if we're that concerned with the safety on both sides of the road, then we gotta make a compromise with the road and know that there's not gonna be a bunch of people parking on the side of the road.
What's the shoulder width on the, is it the same one, it's 30 feet wide or 24 feet wide?
I don't know that I agree with 24 right now, Heath, if it's gonna be multiple, or if it's gonna be high curb. I believe you're gonna have some troubles.
Be multiple curb.
And multiple
curb.
All of it's gonna be multiple?
Let's still catch stormwater.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, multiple.
It could be as tall as a regular.
Perhaps not a gully washer, but.
Yeah, I mean, it might end up washing up onto the terrace a little bit, but.
As long as, Nick, you feel that on some of these slopes, I'm sure the road's gonna be straightened back out anyway, as long as we don't get pushing back into somebody's yard, you know, on some of the corners, you know, potentially.
Okay, any more discussion? Mr. Minell, do you have anything to add?
No, I think we need to clarify though, the road, I'm okay with smaller road, but I don't know what's reasonable or comparable with other neighborhoods.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jordan? Anything?
I like the way that Misty Pines is, the road with mounted curb, with sidewalks on both sides, so I would agree with narrowing up the road and maintaining the sidewalk on both sides.
Garen?
I'm for that. I thought that's what we had last time.
Mr. Mocher?
I would agree with that.
Mr. Croner?
I'm in agreement.
Okay. Anybody care to make a motion?
I think if we make a motion, we gotta talk about, go ahead, sorry, Joe.
Okay, well, so
Go ahead, you can talk before you
You
make.
guys do need to be very specific.
Yes, we do.
So we're putting it in a resolution for the board, that the board will adopt on Monday.
So, could you tell me what the required parkland dedication fees are? I mean, did anybody do that, computation?
Right now, it's still, because we have to bring the new one to you guys, it's $244 per single family lot. I don't remember
It's like
offhand.
$20,000.
What is the new one proposed at?
Well, the one that we brought to you guys looks at separating them. It's actually, you have to come up with a number because we did the impact study, so it actually could be a lot higher than what it currently is right now. It was broken into two fees. That was what the suggestion was from the plan commission. One was for maintenance and one, am I saying this right,
Acquiring.
Michael? The other one was for like construction of parks. So it was looked at.
But we're approving it as of right now.
Yeah, we don't,
So
that
we're not gonna be
ordinance
looking
hasn't
through-
brought,
Right.
yeah.
I
So
mean,
you would
that's
be
under the
244 for the,
It's $20,252 for the 83 single family lots. Plus the duplexes and.
For the duplex lots.
A little higher.
It's a little bit higher. It's like 3 some. Yeah. Yeah. Should have had that.
To my eye next.
we'll have a number in there for the.
Oh, that's right. We got.
I just, Nick, I just in the city, just to confirm everything, because we had a number of requests tonight with the water out there. So I saw that it sounds like MTS was contracted to do erosion and stormwater management for the site.
Yes.
Do you think that's gonna I mean, is this site gonna have any effect on what's going on with Birch Street on the west side, or do you think it's gonna make that better?
Yeah, if, can you have the overall map? I don't know who's running the screen, but,
I think it'd be better.
I would say 90%.
For the sake of making sure we're.
Yeah, 90%, well, I shouldn't say that, probably about 70% of the water, stormwater, when it rains, will end up in that southeast corner in the outlot. There's a portion on the east side that drains eastward that will continue to drain eastward, basically the backyards of those larger lots in the wetland there. There is a small portion along Birch Street that will still drain to Birch Street. If you're on Birch Street, it's going uphill into the property. So there's a small portion, but that'll, in our plan, is going into the ditch on the east side of Birch Street. It should never get onto the west side of Birch Street. The DNR and the village requires that we look at different rain events, and so what it rains today on that land, we have to make sure we don't want any more water off when it's fully developed. And then there's also additional criteria for solid removal and stuff. So obviously we would never plan for any stormwater issues. That doesn't mean that something can't come up. But we do everything we can to meet all the code requirements.
Sure. And I just want to make sure, I mean, we had a number of concerns about that tonight, so I just
Understand.
want to make sure that those concerns are, answered.
Mr. Garrett, do you have?
I was just gonna say, I believe that it'll probably help the area out. And as like Michael had stated earlier, you have so much water coming down Birch Street right now, and if in the spring and fall, you'll have some frozen culverts which washes on across the road. So I'm assuming that in part of their layout, the new road layout, they'll probably upsize some culverts and they'll have some different designs to capture that. But I think, Nick, you gotta keep everything on site. You can't leave up, you can't make it go off site. It's gotta stay on your property.
Right, correct. One other point that Heath and I were just talking about, I want to make sure if it needs to be said now, we want to say it now. There's a potential that we would split this into two phases, a southern phase and a northern phase. I don't know, Jennifer, if that has to be delineated now.
No, because you would just come through with
With
the
a final
final,
plat.
it would just be only part of it.
Okay.
so.
And that would be part of the developer's agreement, correct?
Yeah.
One other thing.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah.
Question members?
See if there's any other questions or comments.
Pardon?
Are we done?
He has a question.
Well, pardon? Go ahead, sir.
Just back to the sidewalks, that sidewalk on the gas line, what was from the last meeting, that one would not be there, it will be there? The short one between the,
I think it was discussed to not be there.
okay, so, and is it showing it on this plan, or
It is on
It is.
this plan.
It was in the motion last time though, so
to be on it or to not be on it?
to be on it, motion was 5-foot path on Birch Street and over the A&R gas line.
I have the recording if anybody wants to watch it.
I can't wait.
I'll make popcorn.
I just remember the comment, and it was from the plan commission that you might not want that sidewalk in.
I alone said that. I just thought it was kind of creepy.
I mean, if he's gonna put sidewalks on
But
two
now
sides.
when I look at it, it makes sense.
Don't need
Okay.
to cross there then?
I agree.
I don't think so.
I mean, if you're buying one of those houses, do you really wanna have a sidewalk running through your backyard?
No,
or right alongside your house? I don't.
No.
I wouldn't buy.
I would say both of those.
I wouldn't buy one of those 4 lots, no way.
So the one does connect to Birch Street, so that is actually kind of a crucial, can you go back to the map, Michael? It is a crucial connection to Birch Street, so you don't have to go all the way up to Stillwater Landing Lane or Maple.
Well, I
So
completely
that one
agree with you,
is kind of a crucial one.
but I think then there should be some fencing on both sides or something. I wouldn't want to own lot 14 or 13, would you?
The lots are big enough.
Those
I
are pretty
think
wide.
the house would be on the other sides of those lots, cause
You
that's.
guys are acceptable to it?
Yeah,
Okay,
I wouldn't mind getting rid of the one on the gas line.
why are we arguing? Get her done.
Nobody's talking about the gas line, eliminating that.
You're gonna have the 10-foot path right there on Birch, so it's only, those two sidewalks are really close to each other.
An example of that would be where the Eau Claire River Trail comes up between that subdivision, between those lots.
Between Thomas and, or Morning View and Tricia.
Yeah, I live right there.
Can you pin out where you're talking about here, Michael, where they're talking about?
Like what Lauren's referencing?
What by the gas line, gas easement where Keith is,
That's the gas line right there.
So this is the gas easement here.
oh, yeah.
And those sidewalks are right up on their lots.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
If you wanna get rid of the one with the, over the gas line, I'm fine with that, and keep the one going out to Bird Street.
Yep.
I'm perfectly fine with that.
And I think we discussed the easement going to the stormwater pond could be gravel, correct?
Yes, that's the one that's up on
The gravel
the,
maintenance road for stormwater basin was the motion out of the last meeting.
It comes from Camp Phillips, so it doesn't come from the development, it comes from Camp Phillips to where it's shown there, so that it's like a purplish color in the corner.
Oh, so that utility easement, Nick, is not, the proposed,
The easement is there.
but there's no road going to that stormwater.
No, the maintenance road goes to Camp Phillips because it's more for the it's also for the sanitary, like for cleaning it. And then also to get to the basin, yes.
Okay.
okay, any more discussion? Anybody care to work through a motion? Take your time.
Joe's gonna do it.
So I move to recommend the preliminary plat for the Inner Spring subdivision to the Board of Trustees with the following conditions. To rename Stillwater Lane. To have sidewalks on both sides of all streets, but the overall width of the pavement to be 24 feet instead of 30. To require parkland dedication fees in lieu of land dedication. Update the civil plans as approved by the Public Works Director. To utilize CBUs for mail delivery. And the execution of a development agreement.
So we have a motion by Mr. Jordan. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Cronin. On the question, Mr.
Do we really wanna, get into the CBUs for mail delivery on it? If he can work something out with mailbox clusters, would we Would we be okay with that? I don't know that we give a crap if they're CBUs, do we?
I would maybe just put that they get approval from the post office.
Yes.
I really don't.
Okay. Mr. Jordan, would you care to modify your motion?
I will modify number 5 to allow the developer to work out a plan with the mail delivery people.
Okay. Whoever seconded?
I did, I second.
Okay, second your modified motion. Anything else on the question? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you for working with us.
And I applaud you guys for having the tenacity to do this in these times, because I know what it costs to build, and it's getting out of hand.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, next item. Is there staff reports? Acknowledge report, April 2021 staff approved certified survey maps and site plan. And 17, acknowledge report, April 2021 building plans. Any care to make a motion to accept or acknowledge both?
I move to acknowledge items 16 and 17.
Motion by Cronin,
Second.
second by Garen. On the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried. Miscellaneous. 18, project update.
So this is just letting you know that we will be bringing back the sign code to you to address some of the issues that we had with the political signs. We just haven't had a chance to work on that yet. The mobile vendor licensing is something new that is on the agenda. The clerk's department is actually working on that.
Can we pause for a moment, Jim? Mr. Pincinel, is this where you wanted to comment?
I was misunderstood, I believe. I thought this was getting discussed this evening, but I think it's just getting acknowledged that we're working on it.
It's just info.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
what
so
we're gonna be
Sherry's
bringing.
planning on bringing something back in June.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. So you'll
We'll
see
see
me
in
next
June.
month. God, I wish we would have, I wish you would have said something. I'm getting paid by the hour. You're okay? All right.
Don't you pay yourself? Minimum wage,
She's
right?
on salary, just like.
Valid question.
Okay, continue. I'm sorry for the interruption.
Excuse me, Lauren.
Yes, sir.
Should we just get his input very quickly if it's brief?
We can't take any action because it's not, well, yes, we can because it is
Well, he's really wanted this 5 minutes. His public.
Go ahead.
No, the public stuff is not agenda.
Yeah.
You know, so if you wanna say something or if you wanna save them.
No, I just
Okay, all right.
look forward to working with the committee. I
Yeah.
think I pointed out some of you folks are
Yeah.
aware, some are not, but I don't know, there's tens of discrepancies in the zoning code plays into the business code.
Yeah, so there's the business licensing
Right.
section, and then there's the zoning code.
And they're supposed to mesh and work together, and right now they don't, and there's some discrepancy on how they work
Right.
together. We'll fix it.
Okay, Jen, would you care to continue, please?
Sure. Chapter 14, I have to meet with Scott and Roman to address, Commissioner Maynell had some questions on that. In regards to the fees, we just haven't had a chance. They're pretty busy right now with construction. And then just, some of the other projects that we have, the park impact needs assessment, it's basically ready to go. We have it finalized, it's just that the Schofield Avenue and the Weston Avenue corridor plans are in the queue ahead of it. So we didn't want to inundate you with too much. So the Schofield Avenue and Weston Avenue corridor plans, we have the public hearing scheduled for Monday, May 24th. It's at Weston Lanes. I passed out the copies. Those are hard copies of the two plans so that you could look at them before that meeting.
And they do have full-size maps in them, so.
The notices went out to quite a few people, so basically everyone in the planning area. I've talked to a few people, most of them are people that are in the planning area and just got the notice and really are not affected by what's going on, potentially with Schofield Avenue or Weston Avenue. But we're holding it at Weston Lanes, just because when we did have the meeting for Schofield Avenue originally, this room was full, so. I believe it's 5 o'clock for the Schofield Avenue, and then we'll have kind of hopefully a little break, for you, and then the Weston Avenue will be after, so that we don't have so many people there. It will be a joint meeting with the board, and so you will actually, we'll be holding, the public hearing for adding this as a component of the comprehensive plan, like we have with the other, corridor plan that we have done, so. You'll both be there together, so that you all hear the same thing.
Okay, thank you, Jen. Item 19, next meeting date, Monday. Actually, there's two meeting dates, Monday, May 24th, one at 5 p.m. and one at 7 at Dale's Weston Lanes. These are the things that Jen just mentioned. And then we have a meeting on Monday, June 14th at 6 p.m., our regular meeting. Item 20, remarks from staff.
I got some. Mr. Nolan, go ahead. Congratulations, and is it order for Emily for passing her certified planner exam?
Yay.
So, good job.
Did you bring beer?
Yeah.
Root beer.
Root beer.
Yep. It's in the case here.
Okay.
Commission members, Mr. Mandel,
Nothing.
Mr. Jordan,
Nope.
Mr. Garrett.
Just a question on Monday's meeting. I won't be able to attend. Jen, you were gonna, I don't know if you sent an email out or is any, Monday the 24th at Weston Lanes. I have to be out of town with my daughter for that evening. Does anybody else have issues? I guess, I don't know, you send that email out or?
I actually sent it out, to everybody, calendar request originally. That was
Oh, you
already
did?
a couple weeks ago, so.
Oh,
prior to
goodness.
scheduling it.
I probably didn't see it then. I apologize.
We'll be okay. We'll.
Yeah, it will be fine.
Mr. Roper,
No, nothing.
Mr. Cronin,
Nothing.
and I have nothing.
Jen, we have a Zoom link for that public hearing, right? At Weston Lanes?
Eventually we will, yeah.
Okay,
We haven't put the agenda together yet. That'll be on the agenda.
okay.
So I could attend during Zoom?
Yeah, I may have to be attending that one via Zoom as well.
Okay.
I have knee surgery earlier that day, so.
Oh, yeah, you'll be out.
You were gonna control the Zoom, so now Nate's gonna have to come. So we're trying to figure out how to do that from over there.
If we see really weird things happening, let's
We'll have to
Michael's
transport it
missing.
to the lane.
I mean,
We'll lay him on a bowling or on a pool table or something.
Okay, having completed all items on the agenda,
Mr. Chairman, motion to adjourn.
moved by Jordan,
Second.
by Garrett, to adjourn. On the question? All in favor, say aye. So carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This reminds me of a lot of the PC